Good evening, black people and all allies fighting for black liberation, black prosperity, and black joy. I'm Charles Blow, and welcome to Prime. President Joe Biden is set to select a nominee for the Supreme Court after Justice Stephen Breyer announced his retirement. Biden has pledged to nominate the first black woman, and there is no shortage of highly qualified candidates from circuit court judges to state Supreme Court judges. But concerns are bubbling to the surface over one contender, U.S. District Court Judge J. Michelle Childs of South Carolina. Before she was nominated to the federal bench in 2009 by President Obama, Childs spent much of her legal career defending employers accused of racial and gender discrimination, the American Prospect reveals. As a federal judge, several of Childs' rulings on criminal justice cases were so punitive they were overturned by higher courts. She dismissed a number of cases involving inmates accusing law enforcement officers of excessive force, as well as cases of over-sentencing. Bloomberg Law recorded 25 cases Childs worked on, 23 of which involved employment discrimination and civil rights violations in the workplace. Nearly half of these lawsuits concerned racial or gender discrimination. She represented the employee in only 2 of these cases. In one instance, Childs represented a company accused of discriminating against a black female employee on the basis of her race and her pregnancy. The plaintiff argued that the company denied her promotion and then fired her outright. In 2017, Childs threw out a motion to correct a man's sentence who had been given 262 months in prison for selling marijuana, cocaine, and ecstasy with his brother. The plaintiff argued that he hadn't been given appropriate legal counsel, but Childs denied the motion without even giving him a hearing. The Fourth Circuit Court reversed her decision less than a year later, arguing that Childs had abused her discretion. As a Supreme Court hopeful, Judge Childs has a powerful ally in Congress, an ally who helped deliver South Carolina in the primaries to President Biden in 2022, which probably helped to save his candidacy. Representative Jim Clyburn has been lobbying hard for the president to nominate Childs, arguing that she possesses the diversity of experience that the Biden administration hopes to champion. Judge Childs also received a glowing endorsement across the aisle this past weekend from another South Carolina lawmaker.
I can't think of a better person for President Biden to consider for the Supreme Court than Michelle Childs. She has wide support in our state. She's considered to be a fair-minded, highly gifted jurist. She's one of the most decent people I've ever met. It would be good for the court to have somebody who's not at Harvard or Yale.
Both Republican Senators Tim Scott and Democratic Senator Joe Manchin have gone on the record saying that Childs is a strong candidate as well. President Biden nominated Judge Childs for the Federal Appeals Court in December, but her Senate confirmation hearing scheduled for this week was quietly postponed after the White House confirmed they're considering her nomination. She's the only contender so far that the administration has explicitly said they're reviewing. The White House has insisted that Biden's decision will not be driven by politics. Nominating the Supreme Court's first ever black woman with extraordinary credentials is what matters, according to them. But what that future justice stands for and their track record with the black community matters too. Joining me now to discuss, Imani Gandy, Senior Editor of Law and Policy for Rewire Newsgroup, and Dr. Julianne Malveaux, Dean of the College of Ethnic Studies at California State University at Los Angeles. So, Imani, there's an embarrassment of riches here. Biden has more than enough options. Any of the people that I've seen among the finalists, or the group of people that people talk about right now, could do this job and do it extraordinarily well. He doesn't have to settle on someone who's controversial, but because Judge Childs has so many prominent people pushing for her, it is fair to interrogate what her history is. What do you make of the reports so far about what her history on the bench and as a litigator has been?
I definitely think there is some cause for concern. I think anytime Lindsey Graham wholeheartedly supports anything is frankly a cause for concern. But The issues with Judge J. Michelle Childs, I think, are real, right? These issues that she sided with big business against workers, issues that she sided with big business against workers who were claiming racial discrimination and gender discrimination. This is a real issue. And the wonderful thing about this slate of Black women that President Biden has to choose from is that he has an opportunity not just to diversify the bench in terms of ethnicity or racial makeup, but he has a chance to diversify the bench in terms of diversity of experience. And generally, Supreme Court justices, they sort of do the same pipeline, right? It's like the Harvard, Yale, Stanford Law School to federal prosecutor or to a corporate law firm, big law firm, and then to judge, and then to, potentially to justice. And I think what's missing is federal public defenders. And if you look at the way, for example, there was a nominee recently, Charles Fleming last year, who was a federal defender, and he's been having a lot of problems in terms of getting confirmed because Republicans are so concerned that he might be biased in favor of criminal defendants. And I think that we need someone on the bench who understands what it's like to be a defendant, who understands what it's like to be a poor defendant, and to have to rely on this system that makes lawyers work extremely hard and have such a small amount of time to deal with cases. It really lays bare the sort of classism that exists when it comes to criminal defense.
Julianne, does it matter that Obama had nominated her to the federal bench in 2009 and Biden was nominating her to the circuit in December? No one was really making a big deal about this history at that point. Does that matter that it's not just Biden who thought that she should be promoted to a higher position, but also Obama thought the same thing, and we didn't hear very much about this legal history?
It does matter. I think that when you look at this woman, obviously she's stellar. She has stellar qualifications. As my colleague has said, she also has an unusual background for a Supreme Court justice. In other words, usually you're right, it's the Harvard, Yale circuit kind of thing. So she's different. At the same time, I'm extremely concerned about the many ways that she has gone with the predatory capitalist view of the world. It should have come up when President Obama nominated her. Should have come up when President Biden nominated her, but it's coming up now. There is an embarrassment of riches. There are so many Black women who not only are qualified, but they are more than qualified of that last little group of beer-swilling, handmaiden group. Let me not be pejorative, but you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
These women.
Julianne, let me just step in 1 second before you finish that thought.
My personal favorite would be Cheryl and that would be my favorite.
Let me step in 1 minute before you finish your thought, because I don't want you to hold that thought. I want you to finish it, but I want you to not pass over. You said her capitalistic, predatory stance or views. What did you mean by that?
Well, she has ruled against people in discrimination cases, and we know that these cases, a Black woman was the first woman to basically, Michelle Vincent, to establish the whole notion of gendered racial discrimination in the Meritor Bank case back in 1986. So for her to have ruled against these folks, a sister who was pregnant and then was terminated, that's troubling to me. It's also troubling to me when someone is treated with cruel and unusual punishment. We know that the school to prison pipeline is all about extracting surplus value from these Black bodies. So to rule against a prisoner who has been exploited, not the one who was selling all the drugs, but another one who was sprayed in the face and his eyes were blurry for days, to rule against, it's troubling. Now she comes from South Carolina. She is a centrist. She's not a progressive. She is a centrist with Lindsey Graham's approval or whatever he has. She probably has a better chance of getting through. He can pull 3 or 4 other Republican votes than some others, but at the same time, her record is troubling. And I think that, we can't, my grandma used to always say, you can't make chicken salad out of chicken spit. And she didn't say spit. So, we can look at this woman. She looks fantastic. She has great credentials. But when you get into the weeds, there's some issues that we have to be concerned about.
Imani, we have 2 precedents of Black people on the Supreme Court. One is Thurgood Marshall. The other is Clarence Thomas. They could not be more different. some black people want to see if we can get back to a closer figure to a Thurgood Marshall. And those very same people are very leery about being duped by a black face and winding up with a Justice Thomas. Where do you put Childs on the scale between the two?
Just in terms of what I've read about her, I have to be honest, I have not sat and read any of her opinions, so I don't know specifically the sort of the legal language that she uses, but it sounds to me like she's somewhere in the middle between Thurgood Marshall and Clarence Thomas. And, you know, wouldn't it be a wonderful thing if there were room for Clarence Thomas, J. Michelle Childs, and, you know, Ketanji Brown Jackson, right? Like, wouldn't it be fantastic if we could have a diversity of Black voices on the Supreme Court and not just be pegged to one who's going to be more liberal than the other? And it's high time that we're able to not view Blackness as a monolith and to not view Black justices as a monolith and Black legal scholars. So I would put her in the middle, but, you know, I am concerned about putting a centrist on the bench. Now I'm concerned about putting a Black woman on the bench who Southern Republicans approve of. That really concerns me. And, you know, James Clyburn himself is relatively centrist. So I would definitely put her in the middle. I would like to see someone more progressive. We've got a lot of big cases coming up that relate to Black civil rights, affirmative action cases. Abortion rights are going to end soon. I think we need a strong Black voice, someone who is really tied to the community and is focused on uplifting Black people. It is focused on understanding the ways in which the law harms Black people, the way in which the law is actually targeted to harm Black people in a lot of respects. And if we don't have someone on the bench who can come from that point of view, I think that we're going to be in trouble as a country.
I agree with that. And in fact, you know, I'm very nervous that maybe we are hemming ourselves into the position that the only Black person who can be voted on and approved at this point has to be centrist. And that would not be in line with how most Black people in this country feel at this point. So I'm also nervous, Imani, Gandy, and Dr. Julianne Malveaux. Thank you both for joining me tonight. I really appreciate your time.